Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA.
Tax day is coming.
Oh, no.
But if you sign up for Robinhood Gold's IRA with a 3% match, you can get up to $195 for the 2023 tax year.
Oh, yeah.
Sign up at Robinhood.com/boost by tax day to get the biggest contribution match on the market. Subscription fees apply.
Investing involves risk. 3% match requires gold for 1 year from first match. Must keep IRA for 5 years. Robinhood Financial, LLC, member SIPC.
Welcome to the Dragon's Lair.
Hello and welcome to the Dragon's Lair podcast, your home all things Dragons RFC and rugby in the region. I'm Jamie and joining me as always is my co-host Gavin Thomas. How are we, Gav?
I'm very well, Jamie. It's a winning week, so clearly a little spring in my step and some joie de vivre.
It's a winning podcast. It's a victory pod, and we don't get to say that too often since we've been doing this. So yes, it's a very special pod. Absolutely. You can find us on platforms such as the Apple Podcast, Spotify, Castbox, and the Sport Social Network. So yes, it is a victory pod. It's a special pod, but it's a special pod for another very good reason. Because we're joined by a very special guest tonight, a former Wales captain who won 94 caps for Wales, scoring 22 tries, which is the most for Wales forward, I believe. He played 2 tests for the British and Irish Lions during the 2001 tour of Australia, and he came to us at Rodney Parade back in 2006 and made 51 appearances for us and went on to become our defence and then later our forwards coach. Without further ado, welcome to the pod, Colin Charvis. How are we, Colin?
I'm good, thanks, gents. How are you both?
Yes, we're very well, thank you. And very excited to have you on.
Yeah, we absolutely are. Right then, so let's go back to the beginning then, Colin. So you were born in Sutton Coldfield in the West Midlands and you grew up in Warsaw. But your rugby journey really started through at Old Deer Park, didn't it? Where you made your debut for London Welsh back in April 1992. So can you tell us about how a lad from the West Midlands ended up at London Welsh RFC?
Yeah, it was just a huge coincidence more than anything. So I'd gone to university in London. The coach of the university team was a great guy, Glanmore Griffiths, and he just, he saw me play a couple of times, asked me if I played for a club, and I didn't, and said, "Come on down to Old Deer Park, and we'll make a new little home for you." I went there. I played for their under-21s. I played for their Ockies, their veterans team, their third team, their second team. And just worked my way up and played for the first team. I mean, it was a bit odd for me at the time because I had no real concept of ambition and wanting to be a first team player. I just wanted to play rugby.
Oh, well, fair enough. So you made your debut for Wales against Australia back in 1996. What are your memories of that day, Colin? Was you nervous at all?
Yeah, I remember being nervous because obviously, every time you put on your shirt, whichever shirt you're playing in, you want to do your best. You're there as part of a team and you want to do your best. I think for me, it had just been a really odd progression. I'd loved those initial games at Swansea and playing on St Helens, running around on that big open pitch, and then before you know it, you're in the Welsh squad, you're on the bench, somebody's injured, and you're on the pitch. So, I cannot remember a single moment of that game. I'm pretty sure that we lost. It may well have been Campese's last game. So I think that might be the only thing I can really remember about the game. But, it was an opportunity to play for Wales and an opportunity that I relished. And from that moment on, I knew that was really what I wanted to do and hopefully do it for as many years as I could to come.
And then you played under several Wales coaches, didn't you? So you played under the likes of Kevin Bowring, Graham Henry, Steve Hansen, Mike Ruddock, and then later Gav Jenkins. Out of all those coaches, Colin, who did you enjoy working with the most?
I think a bit of a tough question. You missed one. You missed an interim coach in 90. Was it 98? When we went on tour to
no, before then,
South Africa. Dennis John took over.
Oh yes.
Just for that tour. So you missed out Dennis John there. And you know, just and the great thing about that is just another coach that I learned something else from. You know, all of those coaches gave me a little bit and added to what makes an international player. So every coach you have will always give you something. I would say probably the best rugby out of me would have been from Steve Hansen. But then he was very fortunate because he inherited me from Graham Henry. And then Graham Henry was very fortunate because he inherited me from Swansea, which was John Plumtree and Mike Ruddock. So you kind of, to enjoy working with your coach, the better you are, the more you enjoy working with the coach, because they're obviously not asking so many questions of you. So I think, you know, for Steve Hansen, towards the end there, you know, he inherited the more complete player. So he had a few things to add, don't get me wrong, but it was less of a challenge.
So, Colin, you played for Wales first in the kind of one of our doldrum periods, and then towards the end of your Wales time, you were at the beginning, perhaps, of kind of our second or third golden age. What was the difference between the Welsh team in the 90s and the Ruddock era? I know it went kind of wrong quickly, but what was the difference between that team in the 90s and the team that won the Grand Slam under Mike Ruddock?
Yeah, I think that, like I just mentioned about, you know, each coach inherited a slightly better Colin Charvis. I think that Mike Ruddock inherited a much better Wales. So that the Graham Henry period and the Steve Hansen period, and that's no disrespect to the guys that came before, because everyone did the best to their ability. But there's no doubt that the team that Kevin Bowring had, for example, physically wasn't as well prepared as the team that Mike Ruddock had. And it's kind of weird because people want to point the finger and say maybe the fault was at the fitness instructors or maybe the fault was at the coaches. But it's not that. The simple point is that for our team to be physically competitive, it took about 5 years of work. And similarly, you know, one of the reasons why we'd say Warren Gatland's team was very successful was he inherited a team that was very well physically prepared, had a lot of belief in themselves, and then I think he pushed them, you know, and got another 5 to 10% out of them, and that's the key. That, you know, unfortunately, coaches can only really, you know, they can only coach and they can only manage what they're given. And I think we've been very fortunate that in the Ruddock era and then the Gatland era, they had very well prepared, physically strong, fit players, as well as guys that believed in themselves.
Yeah. Do you think the game has changed, Colin? Because you started in the amateur days, and I saw you play at Old Deer Park during that time. I used to go down and watch London Welsh. I was in university myself in London at that time. Do you think the game has changed hugely? It feels like that to me as a spectator and as someone who's played at a very low level, but as yourself who's played at the highest level, do you think the game has changed considerably? Well,
I think, you know, the game has changed significantly, you know, and we can look at some amazing players from 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Would they physically have coped with the game of 2023? And I think that's probably one of the biggest questions. You know, there's no doubt the average size of player has got bigger, the average speed has got faster, and the strength and endurance has become more of a dominant part of their game. So it's hard to say. Could I have achieved 94 caps in the modern era? Would I have been able to keep up, or would I have, you know, led from the front? There's no way to know unless you've actually been through it. And so I think that is one of the big changes. And also, I think that probably, what aided the longevity of my career was, I really enjoyed myself. I had a great time on the pitch and I had a great time off the pitch. And, those things kept my enthusiasm for rugby so high for over a decade. Now, there's no doubt that because rugby's a lot more professional, a lot less social than it used to be, how many of those players from maybe the 90s era or before would have really enjoyed themselves if you'd have taken out certain social part of the game?
Yes. And do you think, as the game's becoming more professional, do you think it's becoming further kind of dragged away from the grassroots? We talked before we recorded, we were talking about grassroots rugby and how over time you kind of perhaps end up going back to it. Do you think grassroots rugby almost feels separate now to professional rugby, or do you think those links are still there?
I think that without a doubt, we've got to look at elite sport as entertainment. That it is as much the spectacle and the pantomime of the game and the atmosphere and the event as it is the gladiators out there on the pitch. But I think that the great thing about rugby is you have to come from grassroots to actually get yourself to elite sport. So long as you never forget where you've come from, you can always be comfortable in the environment that you're in. And if that's an elite environment, so be it. And yes, you haven't got the time to visit your local rugby club every weekend to go and watch the minis. And yes, there's a lot of travel and there's a lot of dedication, there's a lot of focus involved. But so long as you never forget where you've come from, I think that's the main thing about it. So elite sport is very, very different to grassroots, but it's all part of that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Colin, you've had so many fantastic moments in the Wales jersey. There's so many to mention, but what stands out the most for you? What's your personal favourite memories when you've played for Wales?
Yeah, I think at the time, I wasn't finding those personal memories. It was all part of the journey. It was all thinking about the next game and the next game and hoping to be selected for another one and hoping for another win. But I think probably the best time I had was that 99 period where we went out to France. We'd lost to Ireland, we'd lost to Scotland. So the Five Nations was looking pretty poor and bleak. And then, I think we started our run of something like 9 wins in a row. So, we beat France in France. I scored. We beat England in Wembley. Gibbsy scored that amazing try towards the end.
Of course. Yeah.
Bringing tears to an old man's eye.
Yeah, and then we went on from that to go and win a series out in Argentina. Then we opened the stadium in front of 26,000 people. We beat South Africa for the first time ever. And then our opening game against Argentina, I scored, and we won. So although that World Cup campaign, we got to a quarter final, lost to the eventual winners. Who were Australia, but that period, that belief in one another, that enjoyment, that winning, that performing together, great players around us, and that really, I thought, marked probably the best era of my career.
And what about the Lions tour then, Colin? Because they say that's the pinnacle of a player's career. Did you enjoy that tour, or did you gain out to that? Did you make many friends?
The Lions tour was amazing. To put yourself up against the best of the home nations, and then to play against that were the current world champions, Australia, and to be fortunate to play 2 tests. That was wonderful. But I kind of think it's. I want to step back a little bit and say that playing for Wales was better. Because playing for Wales was with people who I'd established friendships and I'd got connections with, and there was a closeness and camaraderie that, don't get me wrong, the Lions was amazing. And in that short period of time, I made some great friends, met some amazing people. But the fact was, you leave that tour and that's it. Maybe you get to go again 4 years later. But when you're playing for your country, when you're playing for Wales, you're cementing friendships that you hopefully will play for 4 or 5 years together, or maybe more.
That was a Clive Woodward tour, wasn't it, that you went on?
No, Graham Henry.
It was Graham Henry. Yeah, no, it's all right. My brain isn't working today. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of your club career then, Colin, you made 168 appearances for Swansea, very successful. And then you go on to have spells with Tarbes in France and then Newcastle. And then in 2006, you signed for Paul Turner's Newport Gwent Dragons, initially on a 1-year deal. So how did that move come about?
Yeah, so I'd finished up in Newcastle. I wanted to stay, to be honest. I was really enjoying my time up there. But, you know, whether I'm just surplus to requirements, who knows? But I came back to Wales and retired. Newport had an opportunity. I think Mike Owen was injured. So although we signed for 1 year, I thought I'd probably be playing for maybe 3 or 4 months until Mike got back from his injury. But I just really enjoyed it. You know, I found the people of Newport very welcoming. My girlfriend at the time was from Newport, and her family were huge Newport supporters. So it was great to have that. Like almost, it was the first time I'd really had like a family support coming to watch me play rugby, and obviously to play for their team was just a privilege. It was a team that needed a couple of old heads, to be honest, and I kind of relished that, knowing that these were me. This was just before I got put out to pasture. Trying to share a bit of love with the younger guys, share a bit of knowledge, and just enjoy those last couple of years pulling your boots on.
Yeah, and to be fair, it was a move that worked out very well for you because you played excellently for the Dragons and you got called up to Wales.
Yeah,
and you got into the World Cup, so it worked out well, didn't it?
Got to go to another World Cup, which was fantastic. Scored a couple more tries for Wales to break that record. That was quite nice. But I just felt that I've always been proud of the shirts that I pull on, and pulling on that Dragons jersey for those couple of years, and then being able to represent Wales from the Dragons, that felt very, very special. We all love a bit of good news, and I felt that my commitment to the Dragons, and the way I enjoyed wearing that jersey, it was great then to change it for a red one as one of their representatives.
Brilliant. Great to hear you say that, Colin. So during your time at the Dragons, you finished playing, but then you become defence coach. And then you end up becoming forwards coach. So how did you find the transition going from playing to coaching? Was it a smooth transition, or did you find it a bit of a struggle to suddenly go from playing to coaching?
I enjoyed it. It is the odd thing with being a professional rugby player for so long is it's the purpose. It's the waking up every morning and everything's for the team and you're committed to the team. So then when you're a coach and you realise that you can't physically be that committed, it's just all about the top 3 inches, what you've got upstairs. So I found that quite difficult, that I still wanted to pull on my jersey. I still wanted to play for the Dragons. But you just have to kind of rein it in and realise, no, it's not about you anymore. It's not about being part of this team anymore in that respect. Any knowledge you've got upstairs, let's just get it out as well as you can, as efficiently as you can to the team. And then, you're on the sideline then watching the guys. As much as you want to be pushing in that scrum with them, you can't do that. So, it was a weird transition, but, nothing lasts forever, obviously.
No, it doesn't, unfortunately. So did you enjoy working with Paul Turner? What's he like as a coach then?
Paul's a back. So it's a pointless question, really. So sorry to be so blunt. But anybody who doesn't get their shorts that dirty during a game, you can't really communicate with them very well. I think the key for me was, the pack. It's called the pack for a reason. They hunt together. So you've got to just focus on forwards and ignore the girls out the back.
That's fair enough. I can't argue with that. So overall, then, how do you look back on your time at the Dragons and Colin? From what you're saying, it sounds like you did enjoy your time at the Dragons, because I can remember when you left, it felt a little bit sudden, a little bit out of the blue. I mean, I don't know if you can go into too much detail, but did you leave us on good terms?
Well, I shook hands with Jim McCready. That was Always a good thing to do, because he was an amazing guy. He was team manager when I first arrived.
Yes.
And what a bloke. And I bumped into him at Pill Harriers just a few weeks ago where I was speaking.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was great to have a quick catch up with him and say hello. Obviously, I parted the Dragons. They had other plans for the future that didn't really include me. And that's fine. Everyone has to take their own course in life. But I had a great time there. Whether it be Viz, I don't know whether you remember Viz, the kit man. Had a great time
Jeremy
with him.
Fissard.
He was a top bloke, through to all the different players, to see people like Phil Dolman that went on to Exeter, had a great career there, and different players that just stayed and went from strength to strength, and it was just good to see that it's not very often that the region had good news back then. And for each one of us, that we all did our best to try and bring that little bit of good news to the club. And I think that was one of the driving things for me when I was there, that as much as we want to sound negative and we want to put bit of doom and gloom that we're the fourth of the regions, every now and then something would happen that would light up the changing rooms or light up the pitch, and it was just great to be a part of that.
Oh, that's good. Who's the most talented player then, Colin, at the Dragons? When you were saying, who did you enjoy playing with and coaching?
Coaching or playing with? So there was people like Mike Owen before he left for Saracens. A great back rower, and can play second row as well. Great guy. Yeah. I remember with Gareth Cooper at scrum half.
Yeah.
He was an amazing player. Little short, don't get me wrong, and a bit spicy, just like most scrum halves. But another great player. But it was just a great atmosphere that the guys had, and you felt that whether you were one of the internationals, people like Paul Emmerich, the foreigners that were coming in, we had
the American,
just everyone just bought into that Dragons ethos. That it's nice.
Yeah,
we were always the underdogs in virtually everything that we went to, but we for a small dog, we barked quite loudly.
Yeah, absolutely. We were far more competitive then than I think we've been in previous seasons, unfortunately. But moving on, now you are among 295 ex-players that are taking legal action against the rugby authorities over brain injuries. So I know it's legal stuff going on, so maybe you can't say too much, but could you just elaborate a little bit on that and why you've decided to take this course of action now?
Yeah, I think that it's a very, very complicated affair. And, from the diagnosis that I've had and from my understanding of the very, very clever brain people, there is something going on upstairs. And most people would say there's never been anything going on upstairs for me. But, I think it's one of those things that, the dice have been rolled and we've got to leave it to the legal people now. There's an element of this that some players want to talk out about what's going on, and some you just want to know what the future's going to hold and what is happening. And I fall into that camp, that the dice has been rolled. The legal parties are going to discuss a lot of things. The medical people will discuss a lot of things. We've already had a lot of journalism giving opinions about it, but it's just for me. I've still got a life to live, a family to keep, and bills to pay, and a job to keep. So I've just got to get on with my life and let everybody else deal with it in their way.
Does rugby need to change, do you think, Colin? Just in terms of player welfare and those kind of things?
I think one of the great things is that they have changed significantly.
Okay.
So, for example, the management now of head injuries and the protocols around that are amazing. And they still miss things, but the majority of collisions, the HIA protocols, they're covering a lot now. And I really am glad to see how well players are being looked after nowadays. I mean, we've just had Owen Farrell decide that he's not going to play this Six Nations because he needs that break, he needs that time with his family, and also he's a bit fed up of the trolling that's happening on the internet. So that is really looking after somebody's mental health and their welfare. So I'm just glad that things have changed so much more now, that the HIA protocols are a lot better. And the law changes in the game have made it a lot safer for the boys and girls out there that are playing.
No, good stuff. Yeah. So I want to ask you now, Colin, about Welsh rugby in its current state, if I may. So Welsh rugby is at the crossroads. We've seen in the news about the toxic culture at the WRU, the sexism, misogyny, racism, and homophobia. Now, there is a new board in place, so hopefully the culture is going to change. On the field, however, the Welsh region's budgets have been cut and the squad sizes have been reduced. So what is your feeling on the current state of Welsh rugby? Are you hopeful that things will improve both on and off the field?
Well, I think you've taken a lot of the principal pointers towards Welsh rugby's in a bit of a mess there, and you've highlighted them. Now, what we've got to remember is that if they are going to instigate change, and it's from board level all the way down, there's been changes, and there will probably be more changes, that we have to give that an opportunity to flourish. So we're very, very fortunate that we have hundreds and thousands of boys and girls at grassroots rugby playing from under fives, under sixes, and all the way up. And what we've got to do is, whoever's in charge now, is make sure we put together a plan, and we're brave with those changes. We're brave with those changes, and we hold to them, so that we don't have to wait another generation, another 20 years to think, oh my God, that didn't work. Let's just be bold and let's move forward. It's tragic to see the budgets being cut by the regions. It's tragic to see the funding of junior clubs being cut. But, we have to cut our cloth accordingly. We're very fortunate that we are a rugby nation, and we've just got to do whatever it takes with the right people in charge to push forward and develop, because this foundation we have of those thousands of kids I just mentioned, we've got to make sure if they are fortunate and they enjoy themselves and they show the spirit of rugby and the values of rugby to get to the top, that by the time they get there, there's a very good product waiting for them.
So a short-term pain for long-term gain, you think, Colin?
Yes.
It's difficult, isn't it? We saw Cardiff in Europe. They went out to Toulouse, and they had kids, and it's just very difficult to be competitive, and there is a worry that people are going to lose interest. When you've got the stars leaving and they're not competitive enough on the field. I mean, it is difficult, isn't it, for the regions to try and attract punters through the gates whilst trying to be competitive, having their budgets cut. There's going to be a lot more pain, isn't there, on the field?
Well, what we've got is a good system for producing talent. We've got a good junior rugby sections throughout the country, 300 odd clubs, providing player after player after player that are ready to commit and ready to perform. So the girls' team is getting stronger. The men's team has been pretty strong. The regions, we're all pointing the finger at the budgets being cut. And yes, that isn't going to help when there's much more money available elsewhere. But the English model isn't sustainable, as we've seen with clubs falling apart there. The French model, the Japanese model, maybe they can keep paying out money, and there's an endless, bottomless pit of euros and yen. And we don't know that. But somehow we've got to find a balance. We've got to be able to give our players the greatest opportunity to flourish in our development structure. We've got to give our players the greatest opportunity to earn a living within our regions. And for those that don't earn a living within our regions, that need to go abroad or find it necessary to go abroad, whether it be for money or actually just to develop themselves as players and characters, we've got to find a way that really suits us, that ultimately means that those kids down at that bottom end of the pyramid can have a progression all the way to the top, that they can do and enjoy the values of Welsh rugby, enjoy being honest, being, pushing yourself, enjoying, having your family being part of it. I think we've all got to think about that long-term plan from, South Gower under fives, where my little boy is, under sixes, sorry, all the way up to being able to pull on that red jersey.
And speaking of the red jersey, Warren Gatland is back. We had a better than expected World Cup. He does have a rebuilding job to do. How do you feel about his return to Wales, Colin? Now, we've seen today as well, Rob Howley is now back. As,
Howley's
technical. Yeah, what do you make of that news then? and Gatland going forward?
I think the main thing is to focus on Warren Gatland. And one of the things about Warren is he likes to leave a legacy, and it's always a good legacy. So let's hope that, you know, with the team, that he can develop and have a good Six Nations to come, and that will be the start of it. But I also think that Warren will be a bit more involved in other things within Welsh rugby, and I can't say what because I've no idea. But I'm sure he'll have a few ideas about regional rugby, about structural development, about academies, and our grassroots rugby. So I think, you know, he's here. Let's take advantage of that and see what we can learn from him.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay. Well, you do have your own business, Colin. Colin Charvis Flooring, based in Swansea. How is business at the moment? Are you busy getting the Christmas rush in?
Business is good. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. We could always take another customer on board. But no, it's just like anything in the world. You know, it's just a challenge, isn't it? We wake up every morning.
Yeah.
All of us have to pull our trousers on one leg at a time, and then just go to work and work hard. Come home with a smile, eat our tea, and be happy.
Sounds good, isn't it?
That's quite a philosophy, Colin.
I think that's a nice note to end it on, actually. So I think that's a good idea to end it there. And we really do appreciate you giving it your time, Colin. And thank you so much. An absolute legend. I'm delighted when you said yes to come on our little pod. It really is appreciated. And I'd just like to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Nadolig llaw yn iawn. Take care, fellas. And we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Colin.
Cheers, Colin. Absolute legend.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, mate.
Bye-bye.
Ta-ra. Bye. There we go. The legend that is Colin Charvis.
What a nice man. What a nice man. You know, you always assume players that you liked would be nice men, but what a nice man. Just really positive, really, you know, just a really... And it feels increasingly difficult to find people in our game who love rugby anymore, doesn't it? You know, so to find somebody who just genuinely cares about it.
He did strike me as like really positive and caring about the sport, and I'm glad he said yes to come on the pod because I loved Colin Charvis growing up watching rugby. He was one of my, I'm not just saying that because he was generally one of my favourite ever players. Really well for the Dragons. Like I said, he said they were supposed to have retired. He goes to the Dragons and he ends up playing another Rugby World Cup. So it all worked out for him.
He is directly responsible for an injury that I picked up. So the France game in '99, I was watching it in a pub in Aberystwyth, and when he scored, I fell off the chair I was standing on and landed on a bit of broken glass.
Oh gosh! So that's Colin's fault then, is it?
Well, I think it's probably the amount of alcohol I drunk's fault, but
that's probably more what it was, Gav.
Yeah, probably, but yeah, it was stressful.
No, I really enjoyed that. Thanks again to Colin, absolute legend, brilliant. Okay, let's move on to some news. Couple of bits of news for you, Gav. So, Dragons confirmed this week that hooker Ellis Ship has left the region. The 26-year-old made his Dragons debut against Cardiff in May 2017 and scored 3 tries in 34 appearances. That was a bit of a bolt out of the blue, wasn't it? But he is far down the pecking order when you consider you've got Elliot D, Bradley Roberts, Jumbo, and Brodie Coughlin. So a shock, yes, but not that.
Well, he's not going to get any rugby, is he? If he wants to play rugby, he's not going to get any rugby there.
No, but I did like Ellis Ship. Should he have had more opportunities? I think he should have personally, but for whatever reason he hasn't. We have got good depth for hooker now, but it's not sure where he's going to end up. Nothing's been confirmed, so I don't know if he's going to have a club lined up or he's got other interests that he just wants to pursue and he just wants to be released from his contract. Really, I don't know. That hasn't been confirmed, but we wish him all the best for that. And the other bit of news, so this was in the rugby paper. Now, we've spoken about Leon quite a lot on this podcast, and it said in the rugby paper on the weekends that he's had talks with Bristol Bears. So, they've met, they've had talks. Now, nothing has been agreed. There's no terms been agreed. But the fact is he has spoken to another club about a move over the bridge to Bristol. So, what do you make of that, Gav?
Well, as I said to you when we talked about the wage budget next year, I like Leon. He's a good player. We have not got our money's worth out of him. And if Bristol want to sign him, I wouldn't be that. Yeah, and we'd be sad to lose him as a bloke because he always strikes me as a solid man and every. But as a rugby player, we haven't seen a lot out of him, and he's either in the Welsh squad or injured.
Yeah, I think for me, because I was asked about this on our WhatsApp group with Rap, and I said, look, if Leon stays with us, I'm fine with that because I do like him a lot. But if he left, I'm also fine with that.
Yeah, I'm not offering to drive him to Aston Gate, but if he stayed,
no.
I'd be quite happy.
No, I like Leon a lot. I don't think he's quite fulfilled his potential, and he has had awful luck with injuries. Oh. But like I said, I'm fine either way. If he stays with us, I think that's great because he is a Newport boy, and you don't want to lose your homegrown international talent.
No,
in an ideal world, you don't.
Of course not.
But there is, the other fact that we have to address. We got to shave some of our budget, the wage bill, unfortunately, and Leon may come into that bracket in terms of getting places value for money. So we're going to have to see how it goes. Nothing, like I said, nothing's been agreed, but we'll just have to keep an eye on that one, Gav, won't we? We'll have to keep an eye on it. Right, okay, then so let's talk about what happened on the weekend. So Dragons got their Challenge Cup campaign off to a perfect start at a very windy Ronnie Parade, turning around a 7-0 half-time deficit to beat Oyonnax 24-7. 74 minutes gone, it was 7-0, and then something magical happened. Ashton Hewitt crossed early in the second half, and then, like I said, after 74 minutes, Joe Davis barged over, and then Rio Dyer's quick double right at the end, meaning that we come away with a bonus point win. So that's our first in Europe since January 2020. And now we travel to face a post side who are now fourth in the top 14. So, Gav, what was your thoughts on it? You watched the game. What did you think of that?
I did. It was the rugby equivalent of the Spider-Man meme for about 70 minutes, where they're just pointing at each other because essentially it was like watching Dragons twice. They were not taking opportunities, neither side. It was sloppy. It wasn't particularly well structured. It seemed a bit panicky. And even the last 10 minutes wasn't great. But I think Oyonnax, by the time Joe scored, I think Oyonnax were just done. And, kind of without wanting to live up to French stereotypes, they just kind of went, ugh. And that was it. And the one try where Rio's essentially scored on the end of a back pass is the only way to describe it. Whether he's tried clearing it and the wind's caught and it's just gone straight over his head.
Oh, that was hilarious.
I've seen that happen, but in Division 5 of Sussex rugby, never in professional rugby.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty bad clearance kick by the fullback. You could see what he was trying to do. He was trying to clear it, but unfortunately, because of the wind, it literally went straight up into the air, went backwards, and ended up in Rio Dyer's hands. It was hilarious. It was so windy. It was really cold as well. Very difficult conditions.
Well, I think Rio and Aston both did very well. To finish their tries, considering the conditions, because Ashton's try was a winger's try, Rio's other try was more of a winger's try. They've done well in tough conditions.
Yeah, because Dragons were playing into the wind in the first half.
Yeah.
And to come away only 7-0 down, I thought we actually managed that first half pretty well, because it could have been a lot worse. Oyonnax had the winds on their backs, and they were looking dangerous in attack. So I thought we managed that first half really well. Will Reid did struggle in these conditions. I think we could have done with a more experienced 10, or we could have done with Kai Evans. I don't know if you saw it in the first half. There was a goal line dropout, and he pushed straight out.
Yes.
And then we had a scrum, and then that led to Oyonnax's first try. Then straight from the restart, he kicked it dead. And I was thinking to myself, okay, I know conditions are difficult, but this is starting to get a bit unacceptable now.
Yeah. He's a confidence player, and I think he's bereft of confidence at the minute.
He played well with ball in hand. I will give him that. But every time he kicked it, I was getting nervous because you literally did not know where the ball was going to go. And I just felt if we had Kai Evans or an experienced 10, I think they may have managed the conditions better. But what I will say, he did that conversion right at the end. That was well struck, in the conditions. So a mixed bag for Will Reid. But I think those experiences will help him, Gav, because we should remember he is a young, developing fly after. I know he's getting mentioned in Wales circles, but for me, he just needs to carry on learning his craft at the Dragons.
He's nowhere near there for me at the moment. Like if we kind of setting up all the cabs on the rank of 10 for Wales, He's 5th or 6th for me, probably.
Yeah, just a few shout outs then. So I want to give a shout out to Joe Davis. After 10 years and 120 appearances, he finally scored his first try. Really pleased for Joe. Ashton Hewitt, he's looking back to his best. We said he was good, didn't we, against the Lions? I thought he had another very good game. So he's now joint second on the Dragons' all-time try list, going level with Hallam Amos on 36. So, a fit and firing Ashton is something we all like to see because he is a very good player, isn't he, Gaff? Aaron Wainwright was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, very
brilliant.
Good. We wouldn't have won it without Aaron Wainwright.
It was. It really was. I think Chris Kerwin from the Argus said it was like a Talupe Faletau moment. Like Talupe used to drag Dragons over the line.
Yes.
We'd have those games, those moments, and it felt like Aaron was doing that. He was literally dragging us over the line. Rio Dyer was superb again.
Yeah.
2 very well taken tries. His kick chase is so good, isn't he? He really is.
I think he's one of the best kick chasers in the game. You can get under anything, and he's brave. If he's not starting for Wales in the Six Nations, I would be hugely surprised, because assuming Gatland puts one of Adams or Rhys Dammit at fullback, then there's room for Rio on the wing.
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely has to be in that Wales starting 15. He is the informed winger in Wales for me at the moment. He really is good.
And like I raised to you the possibility of him playing fullback, but I think you were absolutely bang on the money when you said his kicking game perhaps isn't what you need.
I like Rio to stay on the wing. I just think he's much better in the wing. Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if we see Lewis Sam at the fullback for Wales in the Six Nations, but no, I like Rio where he is, and he's developing really well. He's getting better and better, and I just love watching him. When he gets time and space like that, he's unstoppable,
Well, he's good.
He's a joy to watch.
It's his acceleration for me. He's not particularly steppy winger. He is just rapid, and he can go from 0 to very, very lots in a couple of steps.
0 to very, very lots. That's a good way of summing it.
That's the scientific description, yeah.
I tell you what did please me about this match as well. So Iron, yes, they did make a lot of changes because top 14 is their priority. They want to survive. I get that, but I think people forget that that wasn't our full strength squad either. We had 15 players unavailable, so it works both ways. That wasn't 2 full strength teams going at it, but we did have some youngsters in that squad. So we had Ryan Woodman at 6, who I thought put in a brilliant shift, and hasn't had the credit. He's been, we earn a lot about the youngsters at Cardiff and other regions, but we're not hearing about the youngsters at the Dragons. So Ryan Woodman is really,
I think
he's a big talent.
He's the best young forward in Wales.
That's a big call, mind. Well, he probably is, though, isn't he? In fairness,
I'm trying to think of someone who's better than him. I can't think of anyone.
I'm sure Twitter will tell us. I'm sure Cardiff fans on Twitter or someone will tell us.
Osprey will tell me Harry Deves, and then I'll just ignore them.
I like Harry Deves.
He's fine.
He's a good player.
Yes,
but he's a big talent.
Ryan Woodman, though.
He's a big talent, Ryan Woodman. He's definitely a future Wales international. Well, he's Wales under-20s captain, as we know.
I wouldn't be surprised if he played in whatever summer tour we do this year.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Harry Ackerman came off the bench for his Dragons debut. I think he's just turned 19. He was 18 at the time. I think he turned 19 on Tuesday. He came on for 12 minutes to replace Sio, who unfortunately went off injured. I think he could be out for a few weeks with that injury. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but it didn't look good. And then we had the likes of Brody Coughlin coming off the bench, George Young, and of course, we had Will Reed. So, we had a good cluster of young talent on there. And that's quite pleasing, isn't it? And encouraging.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and, I think I've not, apart from Saturday, not seen Harry Ackerman before, but, I've heard good things about him.
Yes, he's a very talented player. Been playing well for Newport RFC as well. So he's definitely one to keep an eye on. So, overall, bonus point win. I don't think any of us were expecting that, were we? And it's a perfect start, 5 points.
Yeah, and you can argue, they made lots of changes. Well, tell you what, you can only beat the team that's in front of you.
Absolutely. Okay, then let's have a quick look in the mailbox. We haven't got too many comments in the mailbox this week, but here's one. I'm just going to go on.
I was going to say, I think the mailbox is predominantly questions about the curry houses of Newport, isn't it?
Right, so let's get this one out of the way now. So Dino asks us, what's the best Indian in Newport City Centre that you recommend? So for me, there's three that I recommend. I quite like Taste of Asia. That's my favourite one. It's a very small curry house, but I do like that one. The chicken salad is very, very good. You've got the New Lahore, which is pretty nice. I haven't sat in there, but I've had a takeaway from there, and that's pretty good. Poppadoms is probably the most accessible one because that's smack bang in the high street. That's fine. That's okay. If you go there late, though, it can get a bit rowdy because they don't close till late and you get a lot of pissed up people in there. So if you're going to go there, I say get a bit early before the drunk lot come in. But those are my favourites. My favourite is Taste of Asia. I don't like poppadoms and I like the New Lahore. So, those are my recommendations.
I don't think Dino wants my recommendations of curry houses in Eastbourne and Hastings because I don't think they'll be that useful to him.
What is the best curry house, out of curiosity, in case I do ever go?
I like Cinnamon Spice near the train station.
And what do you have, Gav? What's your favourite curry?
I'm a lamb naga, madras hot, coconut rice peshwari naan.
Nice. That's nice. I fancy a curry now you've said that.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Make me hungry now. Right. Here's an interesting question for you, Gav. I want you to answer this one. This is from Owain Leclerc, and this is what he asks. Do we care if we finish bottom of the URC if we got ourselves a home draw quarterfinal in Europe, or even maybe make a semi-final?
Do we care? Yeah, I want to say yes, right? Because if you end up bottom of the URC, you've lost a lot of games you could possibly win. And yeah, it'd be great to do well in Europe. But let's be honest, do we want to be in a position where we lose twice to Cardiff, where we lose twice to Scarlets, where we lose twice to Zebra? I'm not sure my positivity well is deep enough for that.
Yeah, I mean, surely we can hope that we don't finish bottom of the URC and hope for good run in Europe. It doesn't have to be one or the other, does it? I mean, I don't want us to finish bottom.
I would take 15 for the semi-final or 14 for the quarter.
Yeah, I mean, we are a bottom two team. Let's be realistic. Again, that's not negativity. That's just realistic. We have finished the bottom two for a number of years.
Yeah.
But do I want to see us finish last? No. I mean, there's no repercussions from it because there's no relegation. Nothing will happen if we finish last. It just means that you are the worst team in the league, and I don't really want us to have, be the worst. I know we're one of the worst, we're one of the weakest, but I don't want us to be bottom, of the table. I just don't, So, okay, here's, I've got a couple here from Chris Talley. He's saying, are we trying to recruit a defence coach? If not, is it because of finances? The answer to that is yes, because I spoke to Di Flan personally about that. I said to him about bringing in, at the time when they were available, Kevin Jenkins and Mark Jones, and he said to me it was difficult because of finances. That's why we got Sam Hobbs stepping up from the academy. But we do badly need a defence coach. That's something that should be addressed.
And how many times we said that, a number of times.
Yeah. The other question you ask is, was releasing ownership a financial decision or purely down to the number of hookers we have? The answer is I don't know for sure, but you could argue it's both. It could be a financial decision and the depth we got there.
I think it probably suited the club, but I imagine Ellis has something else potentially lined up, might not be within rugby, and it's probably within the best interest of everyone.
Yeah, that's what I think. Okay, so that's the mailbox then. Like I said, there wasn't too many comments, but thank you all for getting in touch. Gwent Rugby Roundup time, Gav. Give us the latest. What's been happening?
So I've got a range of results. So in the Welsh Premiership Cup, Ebervale beat Cardiff 27-15. That now gives them a semi-final against Llandovery. There was no Premiership League games. So in the Championship, Bedwas were 31-10 winners away to Beddau. In Division 1, Abergavenny's poor season continues with a 34-14 defeat at home to Risca. Pontypool United lost 8-15 at home to Talwyn. Talwyn doing very well in Division 1 East. In Division 2, and now when we go further down the leagues, if it is a bit like a list of places I have been drunk in the last 3 decades. But Division 2, Oakdale lost 15-35 at home against Gandifaeth. In Division 3, Machen beat Llanilla 42-20. Horrible place to go and play Machen. Well, it was in the 80s. I don't know what it's like now, but I'm assuming it's still a tricky place to play. In Division 4, Crickhowell lost 14-19 at home to Bedwellty. Bedwellty, which I didn't realise was a merger of Aberbargoed and Markham clubs, and
okay.
My mother's family are from Bargoed, and my uncles played for Markham rather, and played for Markham in the 60s and 70s. So it's nice to know there's still rugby in the village, even though it's not always in the village. Newport Derby in Division 4, Newport Saracens beat Whitehead 35-22. I bet that was a spicy game. And then Division 5, Westmont lost 5-16 at home against Abersychan. And in Division 6, Old Tillerian beat Trinant 17-14. So plenty of rugby played over the weekend.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much for that. So let's move on then to Rate the Players playlist. So this is a feature where the Dragons have been asking their players to contribute 6 songs to the matchday playlist, and me and Gavin have been rating them. This week, it's Ben Carter. So this was his playlist for the Cardiff game. Now, I don't know if you've seen this playlist or not. I don't know if I sent it to you or not. Did I send it to you?
I think we've been discussing Real Dyer's playlist.
God, yeah.
Rio's mum for them discussing his taste in music.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do with that one. I'll be honest. I really don't know what we're going to do with that one.
I've actually listened to Rio's playlist, but we can talk Ben's through.
Yes, let's keep our powder dry on that one. So let's start off with Ben's. So this starts off really, really strong, and then it goes south very, very quickly. So the first song choice of his is Welcome to the Jungle, Guns N' Roses. I mean, can't argue with that's a banger, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a classic.
It is what it is. This one of my favourite AC/DC songs off the Back in Black album, Shoot the Thrill.
Shoot the Thrill's great. Back in Black is great. And, do you know, AC/DC, why do AC/DC not get the credit they do?
You don't think they do? I don't know. They are like one of the most popular rock bands ever.
They're popular, but why do they not get the critical credit they do? Because they're a bit of a joke band. That's a band that have been knocking out absolute classics for 4 decades.
I love
5
AC/DC.
decades. 5 decades.
Have you seen them live?
I haven't. I really, really regret that.
I saw them live, Wembley Stadium.
I
can't remember what year it was, though.
I did bizarrely saw their original singer, a guy called Dave Evans, who was a singer before Bon Scott.
He was Welsh, wasn't he? Was he Welsh?
He's Welsh. Yeah. He's from Newport, I believe. Well, he's certainly from the Eastern Valleys. Yeah, and I saw him perform in Ebbw Vale at a rock night that my friend used to run.
See, I love AC/DC. I love that Back in Black album. There's not one weak song on that album. Like
no.
Some critics seem to think Shake the Leg is the weakest. If you listen to what critics say, they always pick that out as the weakest, but I like Shake the Leg. I love them all. Give It a Darker Bonus, one of my favourite tracks ever.
It probably is the weakest song on the album, Shake the Leg, but it's a great song. And I'm a big fan of Bon Scott era as well. You know, geez, that man could sing and could drink. But, it's... no, I'm a huge AC/DC fan. But I just don't think they get the credit they deserve from critics. You know, it's...
What you say there about AC/DC is how I feel about Status Quo scene. Because they're regarded as a joke band, and they have sold a lot of records, and they're bloody great lives. What do you make of the Quo? Do you like the Quo, Gav?
So a colleague of mine, Connor, they're his favourite band in the world. Absolutely loves them. Yeah. And we were at the training thing, and I was ripping the piss, and he was like, he just became quite irate. He said, "No, they're a great band." But when you think about it, and they were one of my dad's favourite bands, so perhaps that's coloured my view. But you know, stuff like Deeper and Down and
Downtown,
you know, the kind of all that kind of 3 chords denim period of theirs before they turned into a pop band was great.
Yeah. Love the quote. And I love AC/DC. That is a very, very good choice. The next few choices, not so good, I'm afraid. So, Shots Broiler Remix by Imagine Dragons. Have you ever heard that track before?
Yes, my son likes Imagine Dragons.
Right. Do you like Imagine Dragons at all?
Oh, God, no.
No.
Not for me either. They're a rock band for people who don't actually like rock or music.
Yeah.
Or bands.
And then his next choice is Queen of Kings for Sandra. I mean, I haven't listened to this one either, so I don't know what it sounds like, but I know I'm going to hate it just by saying the title. Just by reading it, I know I'm going to hate it. And then the next choice is, this is a guy that's popping up a lot now on these playlists. It's bloody David Guetta, Titanium. What is it with Dragons players and David Guetta?
Titanium's the best of his songs.
I can't think of a song I like of his.
I don't like Titanium, but I don't hate it.
No.
I think for David Guetta, Nora, it's a oomfa music, and could get that pumped up. But I just think there's people who do that so much better. I don't know if I've mentioned on the pod before. If I will happily mention it every time. In fact, do you know the band Electric Callboy? Have we talked about those before?
No, I have heard of them though.
Yeah,
but we haven't talked about them.
They're a German band, and they're this weird mixture of kind of Europop. David Guetta said Europop and metalcore.
Oh right, I might like that then.
And yeah,
I'll give that a go.
There's a track called "We Got the Moves," and it is essentially a metalcore, a Europop core, and that is my current psyching me up for.
Right, okay.
They want to be dumping the David Guetta and getting on Electric Callboy.
And then he ends then with Venom by Eminem. Now, which I can't remember what this goes like. I can't remember this song off the top of my head.
It's a later album track.
I wouldn't have known it then. I did listen to his latest stuff, Eminem.
No.
So,
so
what do you think of that then?
Well, I think some bangers, some not bangers. Yeah, Titanium's all right, though. That Titanium's a good pop dance song, if you like that kind of thing. And then an average Eminem song. So
what are you going to give the playlist like that? What are you rating it?
I'm going to give it 6, just for Guns N' Roses and AC/DC.
I'm going to give it a 5, just for those 2 tracks, and then the rest, I'm, not for me at all. But it starts off so good, and then it just goes south really, really quickly. That's the most annoying thing. We haven't had a consistently good playlist yet for me. I think Rodri Williams has come the closest to having a consistently good. But then that's just my taste. Their music is subjective, I guess.
Yeah, and what we've got to understand, mate, is that you're a younger man than me, but neither of us are young men, and these are the musical tastes of young men. It's when we come to discussing reels, it's going to be painful to listen to 2 white middle-aged men discussing like a mixed race guy's taste of music, because we will disgrace ourselves. And with with this. We didn't grow up listening to David Guetta on the radio, did we? Whereas Ben has.
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's a fair point.
We grew up listening to Phil Collins on the radio, and look what that's done to you.
Nothing wrong with Phil Collins, right? Right, let's just move on then. So let's go to, let's look forward to this weekend's game. So Poe v Dragons. So kickoff is at 5:30 on a Saturday. Now, just to clarify the situation here with the broadcast. So this game is not being shown anywhere on TV. The good news is you can watch it on EPCR TV. The bad news is you got to pay for it. So if you want to watch this game, you've got to pay €7.99 to watch this game. You have to buy a pass on the website that allows you to stream the game. There probably won't be any commentary either. And that's the same thing for the Zebra game in round 3. So if you want to watch them, you got to pay for them. And I had a rant about this on the Rap podcast because I think it's a piss take. When you consider, like someone for myself, I subscribe to Sky, I subscribe to TNT Sports, I subscribe to Fireplay and Amazon. To expect supporters to pay £7 on top of all that just to watch one game, to stream a game. I think it's a piss take. And I'm not happy about it at all. So I'm not going to be watching this game. I'm not paying to watch this game. I'll just have to watch the highlights and read the match reports. Are you going to pay to watch it, Gav?
No. I feel exactly the same about you. It's like TNT, Viaplay, Sky, Amazon.
Yeah.
No, I'm not paying any more to watch terrible rugby with no commentary. I don't care who does it, but one of these broadcasters needs to go, tell you what, we are going to do a proper job of broadcasting rugby in this country, because none of them do a proper job of it. TNT's coverage of the English Premiership is good if you want to watch, but if you like watching posh boys run about. And I do watch English rugby, and I go and watch Quins. Quins are my nearest side, but somebody just needs to say, "Well, tell you what, we'll show the URC, we'll show the European competitions, we'll show Premiership, and we will become the home of rugby." Like Sky were for a bit.
It'd be nice to have it all on one channel, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I don't care which one. I would happily pay for it. If it was Viaplay, fine.
Yeah.
If it was Amazon, if it was Netflix, I don't care who. But somebody just say, we are going to show all the rugby in the UK and Ireland, and we're going to do a decent job of it.
Because I was listening to the Pirate Rugby podcast last week, and they have a guy on their end there. He does all the broadcast schedule. He reads out, what games have been shown and what channels. Very handy guy to follow on Twitter, actually. And it's an absolute dog stunner, this European schedule. There's so many broadcasters. There's so many streaming platforms now. It's just an absolute mess. And to expect supporters to pay £7 to stream this game, I just think it's a massive piss take. So, although when we play the Sharks in round 4, that will be live on Fireplay. But if you want to watch this game against Po and the next round against Zebra, you are going to have to pay for it individually. And it's not being shown anywhere else on TV. So don't try and stream it on French TV because you won't find it. It's only through EPCR TV. So, it's pretty shitty that is, isn't it? In terms of this game then, Gonzalo Bertranu is back. So I don't know if he's going to be started on the bench, but it's good to have him back finally. At last, we've been waiting a while. Tane Basham should be free to play after his ban for twatting Rossburn in the head. So he should be fine now.
The technical term.
He should be available for this game. But I wonder if they'll chuck him straight in or will they just keep him for the derbies. But I would personally play him. Now, Po were beaten 45-5 by the Sharks in Durban in their opening game. But they did play a much weakened team. It is expected that they're going to play a much stronger team against us, because if they don't win this one, they don't get anything from it. They're pretty much out of the competition. So this is going to be much tougher than when we went out to Po last season. We've already beaten Po before. We beat them last season out in Po, but that was a weakened team. So this is going to be a tougher test. And we really don't know at time of recording this. We don't know the teams, what they look like. We don't know if Dragons are going to go full strength. Will they hold some players back for those festive derbies coming up against Cardiff and against Scarlets? I presume so. So what are your thoughts going into this game then, Gav?
It's just one of those games that, a bit like the Oyonnax game, who knows? We last week, we were talking about it could be a 20-point win for Oyonnax, it could be a 20-point win for Newport, for Dragons, or it could be anyone's. And this is the same. On paper, you would imagine the team at the fourth in the top 14 are going to beat the team who are bottom of URC. But I've stopped making predictions about Dragons games because,
It's difficult, though, to predict Challenge Cup games. So I was on the Wrap podcast on Monday, and it's far easier with Champions Cup games to predict because for the most part, they put out full-strength squads. They don't always now. I know the Stormers didn't. But for the most part, it's full-strength squad. In the Challenge Cup, you don't know who's going to be playing who. You don't know the players. And just because a team is bottom in a league, in France, doesn't mean that they're not caring about this tournament. Look at Montpellier now. They beat Newcastle away. Okay, Newcastle's struggling, but still, they cared enough to turn up to Newcastle and beat them. They got Ospreys at home now, and who knows how that's going to go. People seem to think Montpellier won't care. Well, how do you know they won't care?
Well, no,
they're still going to be tough to beat.
So they're professional sportsmen you're talking about. They're going to want to win.
Yeah. And they don't like losing at home either, French clubs. No. And Pau have won all their home games this season, the top 14, and against the likes of Toulouse and Clermont. But that's the top 14. This is a different competition, so there's no saying they'll translate into Europe. But the good news is for us, getting our bonus point win, for me now, this is not a must-win game.
No.
I think we just need to come back with a losing bonus point. Now, that might sound defeatist, but I would still put us in a good position in the group. We would be on 6 points. We'd still be in a pretty healthy position. And our next game in Europe would be to go to Zebra, which is a winnable game, a game we should be winning. So, for me, it doesn't need to be a must-win game, but I would like to see us come home with something. So I think Dave Flanagan said in the week that we can now go all-out attack because of that result against Oyonnax, like the shackles are lifted, so we can just give it a good crack and see what happens. Whereas if we lost against Oyonnax, then the pressure's on us to go out and get something, and that makes it harder, doesn't it? So, I think we could be confident, and we don't really have to bust the gut to get something from this game, do we? So
no.
So what's your prediction then, Gav, for this one? What are you saying?
I'm going to say Pau by 7.
Okay, so that would leave us with a losing bonus point. That's fine. I was slightly more positive, which is unlikely, I know, but I predicted a Dragons win. I went for Dragons by 2. Which is very unlikely.
But it could easily be that as well, because we don't, we could put a great team out, they could put a less good team out, they could put a great team out, we could put a less good team out, who knows?
That's the thing. I mean, just because they got battered by the Sharks, that don't mean that they won't give a toss for this game, because like I said, French teams do not like losing at home.
No.
They don't like losing at home. But that's my prediction. I'm going to go for Dragons by 2. But as long as we come back with a losing bonus point, that's good for me. That's good for me. Right then, I think we'll call it night now. I can see you yawn. I know you're tired. You've had a stressful, hard week. I know that. Sorry,
sorry, I wasn't yawning for that. I'm just an old man now, Jamie. Kind of anything beyond age 30 is a bonus now.
Brilliant. We'll be back next week. Will we be back next week? Do you want to do?
We will be back next. Yeah, we will be back next week. I'm working from home next week, so it's even easier.
Oh, brilliant. So then we'll see if we can get a guest on for next week. That'll be pretty cool. Our thanks again to the legend, Colin Charvis, for joining us. Really enjoyed that. That was a great chat, wasn't it? And we'll speak again next week, Gav. Take care to all our lovely listeners. Goodbye.
Thank you all.
Thank you for listening to the Dragon's Lair podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, rate and review wherever you listen to us, as it really helps spread the word. You can find us on all the usual social media channels or email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. And remember, whatever the question is, rugby is always the answer.
Sports Social Podcast Network.